and a very warm welcome and good evening to you all. And welcome to another stream from very windy Swansea. But moving on, I thought today we would go about and create a chatbot. So chatbots are quite popular at the moment. You've got quite often you visit a website and there might be a chat function on there that takes you through purchasing something, or if you've got any questions or anything along the lines of that. And of course, everyone's got a chatbot on their phone. There's Siri, there's Alexa, there's whatever Google calls there. I think it's Google Assistant. I mean, there's Samsung's Bixby, but I don't think anyone uses Bixby. But nevertheless, we're going to have a look at creating our own today. And for that, we are going to use a website called play.rivescript.com. And that's because the language we are using is RiveScript, which is very unusual, shall we say. So we've done several languages, programming languages, over the course of lots of different live streams, but they've all been very similar. We've done Python, we've done JavaScript. They're quite similar languages. In fact, if you were to compare them to human languages, natural languages, you could say that Python is French and JavaScript is Spanish. They're different languages, but there's enough similarity between them. RiveScript, on the other hand, it's like Japanese. It's really weird, and I'll show you why. So, if you open up play.rivescript.com, you get something a bit like this. And we're just going to delete it all at the moment because I'm going to go through a bit about what it does. Now, RiveScript takes an input from the user and it responds with appropriate output. And to show an input, we do a plus symbol, then a space, and then whatever we expect the user's input to be. So what's the first thing a user's going to do? Well, they're going to say hello. So let's type in the first input, hello. All this is doing is telling, RiveScript is saying, okay, when a user types in hello, what should I do? Well, on the next line, we can tell what RiveScript, what it should respond back. And we show a response, an output with a minus. So a minus space. What should our chatbot say in response? Let's say hello to you too. So the first line is user input, and that's shown with a plus. The second line is RiveScript output, and that's shown with a minus. And if we click run up here, we now move over to the right hand side where we can send messages to the bot. So if I say hello and press enter, RiveScript says hello to you too. But if I send it something it doesn't understand, like, I don't know, sheep, it says, well, I don't know what to do when you say sheep. So let's click stop running. And let's tell it what it should say when it says sheep. So I'm going to press space a couple of times. Enter a couple of times. And we should define an outcome for when the user types in sheep. So plus sheep. What should RiveScript do? Well, we show that with a minus and we say, I don't know, what would you say about sheep? I don't know. Sheep are fluffy. So now we've defined an input that works. let's give it a run. Let's see what happens. So I can send a message to the bot. I can send hello. And I can send sheep now. And it says sheep are fluffy. But here's where RiseScript begins to show how different it is. Because I'm not limited by the order I type things in. So let's stop running. And let's run it again so we clear the whole screen. What happens if I were to send sheep first? It says sheep fine. If I send hello second, it says that fine. You know, I could say it as many times as I want. And the reason why I bring this up is this is what makes RiseScript different from Python and JavaScript. It's a functional language rather than a imperative or sequential language. So in Python, one thing happens after the other. If you have one line, if you have something on line 1 happens first, then line 2, then line 3, then line 4. That's not the case with RiseScript because you can write any response whenever. So it begins to get a little bit interesting. Anyway, that's enough babble about that. I'm going to delete the sheep line because we're not going to need the sheep today. Let's begin expanding our chatbot. Give it a little bit more personality. Now, someone could say hello to it, but what happens if they say hi? Let's define something for hi. So plus to show its user input, and a minus to say, well, we want it pretty much the same. So hello to you too. And let me run that. We could do either hello or hi. And it says the same thing. But we can write the same thing in less code. In fewer lines of code. So if I get rid of this here, I can do what's called an optional. So in this line here where I've got hello, what happens if we were to change that so it could say, either they say hello, or they say hi, or they say hey, or they say what's up, or they say good morning, good afternoon, and so on. And the way to do that is in some round brackets, you write every word that you want to sort of capture. So the user could say hello. They could also say hi. And to separate hello and hi, I need to use a pipe character. And a pipe character, you can find it if you on a British keyboard. You can find it next to the Shift key. It's just a straight vertical line. So you do Shift and backslash, and that should give you a pipe character. So hello, hi, and then another pipe character. What happens if they say hey, sup? How else do people say hi? I was gonna try the Welsh. I think it's Shemai, but I don't know how to spell that. I won't offend anyone by trying. So we've got 4 options here, and if we click run, if you say any of them, it produces the same output, no matter what. So that's a nice way to really really smooth out your code, make it easier to read. Let's do something a little bit interesting. What happens if they say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night? So we could do the same as we did with hello, hi, hey, and sup by doing good morning or good afternoon. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it in a way that's a lot easier. A lot kind of cheating actually. I'm going to use a wildcard. And a wildcard is basically anything that's kind of, well, anything at all that's after a first word. So, what's the difference between good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night? They all begin with good. So let's write in good. And they could either write in morning, afternoon, evening, or night next. So what we can do is we can capture that without saying explicitly what it is. And I'm going to do that with a star. And the star can represent whatever the user writes there. So to do it, I just did Shift 8. And we can reply back, so minus to reply. Let's have RiveBot say good back plus whatever the user said to RiveScript. So if the user said good morning, we should reply good morning. And the easiest way we can do that is we just reply what the user said. We need to reply with this star. And to refer to this star, to use it, I'm going to write a tag. And that tag is open less than symbol, star, close less than symbol. And this tag here, this star tag, is basically going to take anything that the user puts in here and reply it back. And the easiest way to really explain that is to show you. So if I click run, the user can type in good followed by any word in any language. So good morning. As soon as I press enter, the RiveBot will reply good plus whatever I wrote. So I say good morning, RiveBot says good morning. I say good afternoon, RiveBot says good afternoon. I say good riddance, RiveBot says good riddance. I say good day in Swansea, RiveBot says good day in Swansea. The star refers to literally anything that comes after the user writing the word good. Anyway, that's enough for the basics. But I wanted to do something with a chatbot. It's very hard to design a chatbot without having a plan for what you're going to do with it. So I was thinking ages, what could we do? We could have something on the TechnoClub's website. We could, I don't know, have something that helps you with your banking. And I thought, they're all quite boring. What about a chatbot that exists only to tell you jokes? And that's what I'm going to do. So let's start with the basics. What happens if the user wants the chatbot to tell it a joke? Well, the user might write in, tell me a joke. And that will, if the user writes in tell me a joke, then, well, that's how it's going to work. So let's think of a joke for RiveBot to reply back. And let's think of something nice and computer sciencey. This is a classic and it's also quite a terrible joke. There are 10 types of people. Those who understand binary and those who don't. Now, there's something that needs to be mentioned about Rivebot. Rivebot really doesn't like apostrophes. It absolutely hates them. And if you type in an apostrophe, it's going to shout at you, basically. And so when I'm writing don't, I am not writing it correctly with an apostrophe then a T, because that's going to cause issues. I'm going to leave it just like that, with no apostrophe. And there are ways of fixing it, but it's just easier if we ignore all that. Sorry, I've lost control of my keyboard. Give me a second. How's that? What's going on here? Okay. Oh, that might fix it. Anyway, sorry about that. So, we've now got tell me a joke, so let's run that. And we can get Rivebot, so let's say the user types in tell me a joke and press enter. Rivebot responds with a joke. But what happens if the user says something a little bit different? So we've got it so that the user has to say tell me a joke, the full sentence, press enter, and that's what happens. It tells a joke. But what happens if the user says tell a joke? They've missed out the me. It's perfectly safe grammar, but the it might not, Rivebot might not like that, and it doesn't. So if you press enter, it says, well, I don't know what to do when someone says tell a joke. I know what to do when someone says tell me a joke, but tell a joke doesn't exist in my view. And the way to fix that is if we go to our tell me a joke input, we can actually make the me part optional. So we can have it so if they include me, then carry on. If they don't include me, also carry on. And to make a word optional, we can surround it with square brackets. So if the user types in tell a joke, it will tell the joke. But if they write in tell me a joke, it will include what's in the brackets and it will work fine. So let's do tell a joke. Tells a joke. Let's do tell me a joke. And it also tells a joke. And that's a nice simple way that we can handle multiple ways of saying things. Which one? Yeah, let's do the next one. We've got Rivebot to tell the user a joke, but what happens if the user wants a specific type of joke? Let's say the user, which I'm showing with a plus, says let's make me optional. And we do that by putting it in square brackets. Tell me a doctor joke. So the user's asking for a different kind of joke, and that means Rivebot needs to reply. So let's do a minus for our Rivebot reply. What's the Rivebot going to say? Well, a doctor joke goes like this. Doctor, I feel a little hoarse. And that's the setup. Now we need the punchline. And the punchline is, Doctor, I feel a little hoarse. Let go of the pony, sir. Terrible joke. absolutely awful, but I'm running the stream. I can write what I like, even if it's the worst joke in the world. We need to put that punchline down somewhere, but if we were to write it directly afterwards, so let go of the pony, sir, it doesn't really work all that well, because if I run it and I say, tell me a doctor joke. Oh, it's appearing fine because I've got my thing zoomed in, but if I zoom out again, it might be a bit hard to make out, but it all appears on one line rather than two lines. And if you want the punchline to really hit properly, we need it to appear on a line of its own. We need a new line. So let me return that back. If we want something to appear on two lines and we want to force it to appear on two lines, we can use the circumflex character. And this one, to get, you do Shift 6, and it looks like a little hat. And I've just put it on the line underneath. And basically, it makes sure that the punchline appears on a new line. And we show a new line just with a little hat symbol, so just Shift and then the number 6 on the number row. And when I run that, it will appear a lot better formatted. Doctor joke. At the moment, there's no space between that, so I need to add a space either at the beginning of this line or at the end of the previous one. So let's try that again. Tell a doctor joke. No, putting a space at the end didn't work. It needs to be before. Anyway, so we've got one joke and punchline set up. What happens now if we wanted to make it so that maybe it's not so predictable? Maybe you get a second joke out of it. So I ask Rivebot, tell me a doctor joke. Perhaps if it could say, doctor, I feel a little hoarse, once, and then say another one maybe when I ask again, or just choose at random. And that's very easy to do. When we want Rivebot to choose a response at random, all we need to do is we need to write multiple responses for one input. So I'm going to do another doctor joke underneath. Doctor, I feel a little gorse. Let go of the bush, sir. And then another one. Doctor, I feel a little Norse. And then I'm going to do another one. Let go of the Viking, sir. Just to come clean, I'm a computer scientist. Computer scientists don't have a good sense of humour. But if I run this now, because I've written 3 responses to the tell me a doctor joke, it will choose them randomly. So it's gone for the first one again. And it's gone for the second one now. And then let's see if it'll do it again. Dr. Duke. I was gone for the first one again. There we are. So you've got multiple responses. And just to clear up any confusion, because we did it with 2 lines here and that was a little confusing, let's do it with just something a little bit simple. Let's do a plus. How are you? So that's the user asking. And RiveBot can respond, I'm great. Or they could say, I'm good. Or they can say, I'm not so good. And finally, I'm not feeling very well. Let's run that. And we can say, how are you? Oh, RiveBot's not feeling very well. Let's ask again. No, they're good now. So it chooses a response at random. Okay, let's put a big bit of space underneath so we can move on to the next one, which is, let's do a knock-knock joke. And we can do this 2 ways round. Let's do it the user saying knock-knock. So what happens if the user types knock-knock? RiveBot needs to respond somehow. And RiveBot is going to respond by saying, who? Notice I'm not putting an apostrophe. I know I should, but I'm not putting an apostrophe because it just makes life much more difficult. Who's there? How do we get the user to respond to that? Because RiveBot doesn't know what the user's going to write. The user could, basically say any part of the joke, any punch, any setup for a knock-knock joke, and RiveBot just doesn't know. So we need to be able to capture whatever the user says. And for that, we're going to use a wildcard. So we're going to use a star. And remember, star could mean whatever the user types. We don't know what they type. But there's a problem here. And the problem is, maybe they type something that is not meant to be interpreted as a knock-knock joke. Remember that with RiveScript, any of these user inputs could happen at any time and in any order. So maybe a user types in anything that's gibberish, like, I don't know, turtles are often green, and they haven't written knock-knock first. We need to specify that this one only occurs after RiveBot has said who's there. And the way we do that, we need to use the percent symbol. So, percent. And this is going to refer back to what RiveBot was talking about. So, who's there? Now, this is referring to, this is basically saying, capture anything the user says as long as RiveBot said who's there first. And now underneath, we can then put the response to the knock-knock joke. And we can do that by, what's the process for a knock-knock joke? We repeat back whatever the user said and we add who on the end. So say the user goes, doctor, who's there? Doctor. And RiveBot needs to go, Doctor Who. And for that, we need to use the star again, because that's what the user has typed in. And we need to finish it up. We need to add who onto the end there. So let's give this a go. Let's click run. Let's do knock knock, and we're going to have RiveBot say who's there. Now, if I type anything now, Doctor, RiveBot can say Doctor Who because it's taking the user's input and added who onto the end. But if I rerun this and I were to type Doctor now, it says no reply matched, and that's because RiveBot hasn't said who's there first. And that's basically how we get to do things a little bit more sequenced in order. So we got that part. Let's finish up with the final part of the joke, which is the punchline. And the user is saying the punchline. So we don't know what the punchline is. So the punchline could be a star. That's, they're saying anything. But what did RiveBot say before that? Well, they said star who. So we need to refer back to that, and we can do that with a star because that's a wildcard, and who. And remember, I did this with a percentage symbol. So underneath, I can now write all the possible replies that RiveBot can say to receiving a joke from the user. So we could have maybe RiveBot says it's hilarious. Maybe RiveBot says I don't get. No, I used an apostrophe. I shouldn't. I don't get it. Or that's not funny, or you're a terrible comedian. Okay, so we capture whatever the user says, and if the output from RiveBot before that was the previous part of the knock knock joke, then we can respond to the knock knock joke. Let's click run. So knock, knock. Who's there? I can't. I'm trying to think of a knock knock joke on pressure. I can't think of any. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, let's just put in Swansea. Swansea who? See you coming? No, Swan sees you and will attack. I don't know. I'm a computer scientist. I'm not a comedian. And let's see what RiveBot thinks to that. You're a terrible comedian. Thank you, RiveBot. That's really cheered me up for the day. Anyway, so that's how we can get a little bit more sequential with our script. How we can get things to be a bit more in order. That's a bit more traditional, like Python. Okay, so what happens now if we want RiveBot to tell us a knock-knock joke? How can we do that? We need to be a little bit more careful here, and we have to create what is known as a topic. And a topic is basically a sort of separate section of code that anything that you write as a user that is not inside the topic will not be matched to anything. So topic is all for talking about one particular thing, one particular area. So let's start with a simple user request saying tell me. Remember, me can be optional. we can put that in square brackets. Tell me a knock joke. And Rivebot will reply, okay. And Rivebot will start the first part of the joke. So Rivebot says, knock knock. Now, we need to enter into the knock knock topic. And let's create that topic. So I'm going to press enter a couple of times. And to create a topic, we start with a greater than symbol. And that sort of pushes everything. It's almost like a function. It's a separate area of code. And we tell RiveScript that it's a topic. And now we need to give the topic a name. So this is going to be the knock topic. And basically everything underneath the topic tag is going to be self-contained. It's not going to have anything to do with the previous load of gubbins that we've written. So everything in here is going to be all about responding properly. Let me just find the topic. Yeah. So let's start with your response as a user. So Rivebot has just said to you, knock knock. What do you say back? We say, who, with no apostrophe, who's there? And on this line, we can put in any of Rivebot's responses. So I don't know any knock knock jokes. I only know a terrible one, so forgive me. Rivebot is going to respond with doctor. Now remember, you can put as many different responses here as you like, but we're just going to put doctor for now. Now, what happens if the user responds? Well, the user is going to respond with the punchline plus the word who. So the user will say something, so we use a star for that, who. And on the next line, we need to find out what joke the user is replying to. So if you've got multiple jokes lined up in Rivebot, then you need multiple of these little sections. But we've only got one at the moment, and it happens if let's use a %, if Rivebot says doctor. Oh, whilst I'm on that, there is a little interesting error that can happen. Whatever I write after a % should be lowercase. No capitals whatsoever. And I don't really see the point in that, but if you find an error, it's probably because that has happened. So if I were to put a D there and run, Rivebot will say, no, you're not allowed that after a %. So the user says Doctor Who, and this is where we put our punchline. So a minus, because this is a Rivebot reply, and the punchline is done, 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 ooh, 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 ooh. And in case you can't interpret my failure to say, that's the Doctor Who theme tune, which is the joke. Jokes aren't very good if you have to explain them, are they? But there you are. And before we can finish, we need to exit the topic. We can do that with a curly bracket, and we can reassign the topic. So we say topic equals null. Because we're no longer we don't want to be inside the topic any longer. We want to leave the topic. And that is pretty much the whole knock knock topic. Let's finish it off. Let's do a less than symbol to end the topic. And we just say topic there. That just means end topic. So let me go through what happens. So the user says, tell me a knock knock joke. And Rivebot responds, okay, knock knock. What happens after that is Rivebot needs to change the topic. So we could use the curly bracket again, and we could say topic equals knock. So with this piece of code, we enter inside the knock topic, and we can say who's there and so on. Let's just play it and see what happens. So I tell Rivebot, tell me a knock knock joke. Okay, Rivebot says, okay, knock knock. And I need to respond. Let's respond by saying, who's there? Rivebot says, Doctor. Let's say, Doctor Who. And there's the terrible punchline. Okay, let's put a halt on that. That's basically how we would get topics to work. And topics are just little sections that run separate for everything else. So actually, let me demonstrate. Let's go back into the knock knock topic. So I tell me a knock knock joke. We're inside the knock knock topic now. Let's say I say some gibberish. So gibberish. That's fine. We haven't written a response for that. That's fine. But let's say I try and say hello. Hang on, why is that not working? I've written it up here. It should work. But it doesn't, because I am now inside the knock topic, which means I can't get out of the knock topic until I get the punchline. So let's ask for the punchline. Who's there? Doctor Who. There's the punchline. Now let's try hello. And hello works fine because we're out of the topic. Okay, that's all well and good. But Rivebot's a little bit robotic. Let's give Rivebot a personality. Let's get Rivebot to respond depending on, let's say, how happy they are or how sad. And we can do that by declaring variables. And to do that, we go to the very top of the script and we press enter a couple of times. And we declare variables by doing exclamation mark and the word var, which means variable, and the name of our variable. So let's say Rivebot is going to store how happy they are. So happiness. And let's say they're not, let's do it on a scale of 1 to 10. They're not too happy, not too happy. So we'll say happiness equals 6. Okay. So let's give me some space. what can we do with that? Well, we could have the user ask how Rivebot is. How are you? So how are you? And as a reply, Rivebot could actually say how happy it is on a scale of 1 to 10. So this is a response. I'm going to use a minus. And Rivebot could say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a... And we need to grab the happiness variable. How can we do that? Well, this is a variable that belongs to the bot. So it's what we call a bot variable. And that's different to a user variable. A bot variable is happens for the entire chatbot. So no matter who's speaking to it, the happiness will be the same. And this is a very interesting concept, because imagine you had a chatbot that ran a phone, what's the word of it? A call center. Say you had a chatbot in a call center. Imagine if it could be unhappy or happy for every single user at the same time. So say I call up and I say something that makes the chatbot sad, and another user calls up and they've got the chatbot still sad from when I called them. Which, it's interesting, and it's a little bit conceptual, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Can we actually start giving these services a sort of collective personality? Anyway, the way we're going to refer to the happiness variable is we're going to use a less than symbol, and we're going to say bot because this is a bot variable, and the name of the variable is happiness. And we can close that with a greater than symbol and finish it off with a full stop. And that's all you need for that. So let's click run, and we'll ask Rivebot, how are you? And Rivebot says, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 6. And that's brilliant. Let's make Rivebot cry now. Let's make Rivebot really unhappy. So let's say the user says, I like you, or I don't like you, or I hate you, or I love you. I don't know, anything like that. We can do that by getting the I part. And we don't know whether they're going to say love, hate, like, don't like, whatever. So we're going to put a wildcard, which is a star. I star you. So I hate you, I like you, and so on. And we can get Rivebot to respond depending on what that star is equal to. This is basically an if statement, and it's written a little bit funny because it doesn't actually use the word if. I told you it was like a different language, but we can say if. For that we need a star. I know, it's very confusing. If star again. So if what the user said, if the word the user put between I and you, if that word is equal to, so equals love, then we need to use a then symbol. And a then symbol is equals greater than arrow. So if the word the user uses is love, then we can get Rivebot to say that's lovely. And we can make Rivebot happy. So we can say bot happiness equals 10 because they've been made a lot happier. Let's run that. So we'll ask Rivebot, how are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 6. Well, we'll tell Rivebot, I love you. They say, that's lovely. Let's ask Rivebot how they are. How are you? And then now, 10 out of 10. Because they're happy. So that's one way we can actually affect the behaviour of the robot depending on our input. Let's add a couple more. What happens if we only like Rivebot? We don't love them. We could say if the star, so the word the user puts in, is equal to, so equals like, and we can say then, which is equals greater than. We could say that's nice. But this time we'll set the bot happiness to a lower number. So open bracket, bot happiness equals, this time it's only going to be a 7. And we can close that again. So that's what happens if we only like Rivebot. Let's say we don't like it. We can say star, which is if, star, which is the word that the user types in, equals don't like, with no apostrophe. Then we can say I see. That's a bit mean. And we can then set the bot happiness equal to 3. We close that off. And finally, what happens if we tell Rivebot that we hate it? So star equals hate. Then we'll have Rivebot just start crying. And then we'll set the bot happiness to 0. And let's click run on that. And finally we can say, how are you? They're about a 6 at the moment. I don't like you. That's a bit mean. We can ask them how they are again. Oh, there are 3 now. Let's say, yeah, I hate you. Rivebot starts crying, and we can ask them how they are. Oh, they're a 0 now. A bit mean. There's one thing we need to cover as well. What happens if the user says something that Rivebot doesn't expect? Like, we've programmed in love, like, don't like, and hate. What happens if the user says, I appreciate you? Or, you know, anything that can go between I and you. Or I tolerate you. We need something that can catch that kind of extra bit of, we don't know what to do with this, so we're going to catch it and deal with it. So if we go underneath all of our if statements, we can put a regular statement, so a minus, and this is going to act as our catch-all reply. So we come in with the I star you, and we say if the star is love, happiness 10. If the star is 7, if the star is like, happiness 7. If the star is don't like, happiness 3. And if the star is hate, happiness 0. And if it's none of the above, then we need to say something else. And we're going to say, Rivebot's going to throw their own words back at them. I star you too. Let's click run, and I can say, I appreciate you. And Rivebot says, I appreciate you too. I goat you. Rivebot says, I goat you too. I have something to tell you. Rivebot says, I have something to tell you too. And so on and so on. It's a nice little catch-all statement. Let's put a stop to that. Yeah. What else can we add? We've done the jokes. Let's add in one last little thing. We can actually store some user variables. Now we stored bot variables. We can now store some user ones. These ones are relating to the user. So we can say something like, let's say you want to tell Rivebot your name. So my name is, and Rivebot doesn't know what your name is, so they're going to put a star there because your name could be anything. Rivebot can then store that. So in a response line, which starts with a minus, we're going to store your name in a variable. And we can do this with a less than symbol and the keyword set. And we are going to set name equals whatever the user typed in, which we grab with a star, and it refers to this star here. Name equals star, and we need to close this begin symbol with end one, and Rivebot can then reply, I will remember that your name is star. Let's see that in action. Let's say my name is Jack, and Rivebot will say, I will remember that your name is Jack. So what happens if we want to call that back later? We can then say, let's say we ask, what is my name? Rivebot then can then reply, your name is, and they need to get the name variable. So we need the keyword get and the response, well, with the name of the variable, which was name. Let's see if that works. My name is Jack. I will remember that your name is Jack. Let's add some garbage in there in the middle. So tell me a joke. We can say, I like you. How are you? So, we've moved on in the conversation. If Rivebot had forgotten by now, then we won't know what the name is. But Rivebot doesn't forget because we told it not to. We can say, what is my name? And it's remembered. Anyway, that's a brief little introduction to chatbots and what goes on in the background. If you go to this website down here in the bottom, rivescript.com, there's a tutorial that goes through all of this. And you can start looking at really advanced things, like it can search Google for you. It can, get into conversations and so on. And you can play games, and you can award points and things like that. So it's a nice little, it's very odd language, but it's a nice one if you want to try something a bit different from the usual JavaScript and Python. In any case, I hope you've had a wonderful evening, and I will see you possibly next week. Ta-ra!